The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Be a movie, yeah, we're gonna be a movie,
Starring everybody
and me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily. Be a movie, we can watch it all develop, starring everybody
and me. We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in. We're gonna start right here.
And we are going to start right here. Good afternoon. Hello. Buenos dias. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified. And this is Triple Feature, the podcast where we do 3 quick movie reviews. Sometimes there's a theme. Sometimes it's just all new movies. Sometimes there's a theme of all new movies. And joining me this afternoon is professional bear poker, currently known as Groot from Wish Groot. Ladies and gentlemen, the protocol son, and one of the people who relentlessly bullies me about watching horror movies, even though I watch horror movies, you dick. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Teasley, how do you do, my love?
I'm doing well, and I'm here to invade all 3 orifices like a bad corn stalk in a Midwestern town.
Perfect. That's why we bring you on this show, sir. So, there was a conversation that took place not that long ago, and I brought this up on another show. I said, with all the cutting back I'm doing in podcasting and kind of just focusing on Damn You Hollywood and then, select others here and there, I don't have as many vehicles, as many venues to review streaming movies. And someone was asking me recently, like, what were my favorite movies of last year? And, I did a whole podcast with the Movies That Don't Suck guys about it. And we talked about it on our show. And I realized like half the movies that I was listing were things that either saw PVOD or on streaming. A lot of stuff that went direct to streaming. And like, I wouldn't have known had we not done the triple feature where we were just looking at new movies and we picked 3 that happened to be out at that time. I wouldn't have known how good Fresh was. And I got to thinking, like, I'm going to get to the end of the year of our Lord 2023. And I'm like, I'm not going to know a lot of the good movies because I'm only doing the ones in theaters that are the big movie of the week because of Damn You Hollywood. And I thought, well, I've got to make some time for some triple features and just get some of these new movies in there. And Jason was like, I like to do podcasts. And I'm going to pitch it over to you because this all came about because of a particular one you wanted to review. And I'm like, well, if we're going to do that, let's do a couple of these so that I can get some of these streaming movies off my plate and onto the podcast. So take it away, Jason. Why are we here today?
I think the movie you're referring to is when I seen the trailer with Something Wrong with the Children, I was all over it. Had a great premise of a trailer, and you was like, well, we need to pair it with something. So we looked at the horror genre because Something Wrong with the Children is in the vein of horror, or supposedly.
In theory.
So we seen that there was a new Children of the Corn out, which is something me and you grew up on in '84. That was.
I actually didn't. I've never seen any version of Children of the Corn.
Well, I'm saying in '84 it was a big thing.
Yes.
We grew
I
up
am
in that
very
era.
much aware of Children of the Corn because it's such like a cultural thing. But
Yeah,
I've never
and
seen the movies.
And the '84 version was so good. It was, it was kicked off pretty much the creepy kid aspect of a lot of movies. And then we was like, well, there's another one out. It's called Sick. It looks like it could be interesting. Had a premise, and the elevator pitch sounded pretty good. But then we sat down and watched these movies, and when you say that you wanted to watch some good movies that was coming out on streaming, I apologize in advance because this was not three good movies.
This is a collection of duds, let me tell you.
Yeah, you said you want to watch good movies. Well, we went to the whole other end of the spectrum.
I don't think
got
any of
these
these are
three.
going to be in my top 10 list for next year. So tonight we're looking at Sick on Peacock, Children of the Corn, which was actually listed as 2020. Jason and I were talking about this before the show, that it was released in 2020, and then I guess it got pulled, and then it just got re-released on PVOD. And then there's something wrong with the children, which is an MGM Plus movie, but it's also PVOD. So let's get into the first one here. Sick. Sick is a 2022 American slasher film directed by John Hyams, written by Kevin Williamson and Caitlin Crabb. The film stars Gideon Adlin, Beth Million, and Dillian Sprayberry. It premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 11, 2022. So it's actually considered a 2022 movie, and was released January 13th on Peacock, not a real service. John Hyams. Let's talk about him for a moment. He has been directing movies since 1997. A couple of the ones that actually have like Wikipedia links: Universal Soldier: Regeneration, Dragon Eyes, Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning, and then most recently he did All Square in 2018, Alone in 2020, and now Sick in 2022. Not exactly killing it.
So, based on filmography, we can determine that he likes shitty movies.
Now, Kevin Williamson is a known writer. He wrote Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Halloween H2O, Venom. He has a producer credit for Venom. He's got he has an executive producer credit for Scream 6, and then he's producing something called the Georgetown Project, which is coming out. So I can see his paw prints all over this movie. The plot of the movie is basically it takes place in 2020. Two young girls. It's in the middle of the COVID quarantine, and they go to a lake house owned by, I guess, her parents.
Yeah,
do quarantine with fun there. But there's a stalker, and that stalker is like a ghost face slasher type killer. The boy, an ex-boyfriend, not boyfriend, ethically non-monogamous boyfriend, shows up at the cabin. So we have three bodies, and we have Ghostface running around. And at the end, it is revealed. I'm just going to get right to it. At the end, it is revealed that, and this was set up earlier in the movie, she went to this girl, this ethically non-monogamous girl, which seems to be a rising theme in culture, went to her party, made out with a guy, and that video of making out with that guy got posted on Instagram, and it went everywhere. It caused a ruckus with the ex current not beta boyfriend, but it also, and this is the whole premise of the movie, but you don't find this out until the third act, right at the very end. She was asymptomatic with COVID, and she made out with a bunch of guys at this party, not the least of which was this kid who got COVID from her, ended up in the hospital and died, and the killers are his family.
It's his mother,
his dad, and
mother,
his brother.
father.
Well, no, the kid that she beats to death with a bucket is, I guess, the brother, the older brother, and so it's the brother and the father. And the mom shows up later to sort of sew everything together and do an exposition dump. But yeah, the plot of this movie essentially is an asymptomatic girl kissed an unknowing guy. That guy dies in the hospital, and his parents seek revenge on her. Well,
you're forgetting the cold open, because you get a cold open of this guy just getting brutally murdered. Well, during this exposition,
proving Kevin Williams has no new ideas because this opens like Scream.
Well, I'm going to get to that because then during the expedition, it's like that's who she initially got COVID from, who then she passed it to the son, who died. That's why he got killed. And it's like, okay, there's a lot of people at this party, so And this goes to show how far and extreme some of these ideas pertaining to the pandemic went. But this was actually titled, and the tagline for this, I actually seen this, Scream Meets COVID. And when I read that, I thought of a really good premise. The synopsis for it was
so I don't know if the audience caught that because you froze, but it's like scream if you can, but keep your mouth shut or something like that.
Well, no, it was Scream Meets COVID.
Oh, okay.
One of the taglines.
Well, no, hang on. I'm gonna keep going, but I'm gonna interrupt you because the actual tagline is fucking hilarious. Because I
okay, now you're frozen.
Used it in the post for. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh no, I mean you froze up on me. No, but it was like okay.
Hang on. If you have to scream, cover your mouth.
Oh, that is hilarious. But yeah, this is one of those things that was really off the deep end, and it goes to show you, and it's hilarious because you actually have a scene where we find out it's the mother drives up in a car, and she sees her getting attacked and won't let her in the car until she puts a mask on.
Yeah. Okay. I have to say the COVID stuff is the best part of this movie because if you remove the COVID and the quarantine stuff out of this, it's just a bland slasher. It's a bland slasher. There's nothing about it that's particularly memorable. I'm not even sure this would have been made. What makes this movie worth making and kind of makes it worth watching is, and I talk about this all the time, horror as a vehicle for social commentary very much works for me. I don't know if it works for everybody. Sometimes you just want to see, bodies being, dismembered and they don't really want the social commentary. But I think movies like Candyman,
when done right.
Yeah. When done right, I think are pretty brilliant. But even like something as goofy as that Halloween Kills, or this one, I still at least enjoy the perspective. And so going back to that scene you're talking about is absolutely brilliant. I laughed hard at that because it's there's definitely a perspective in this movie about the paranoia related to COVID and like the mental illness that it caused for people.
Oh yeah.
Just the breaking down of like social mores and social contracting. So going back to your description of it, because it really does need to be laid out. This gal is beaten up and bloodied. She sees a woman in the car. The woman has the mask on. She's like, help, I'm covered in blood and there's a guy chasing me with a knife. And she's like, okay, but where's your mask? And look, let's just take that for, that it's absurd. It is definitely like playing with the theme of the time, but it's doing so in a way that like there's a tacit recognition that we were kind of inhumane to each other. That we were so afraid of dying from COVID, we overlooked everything else. That seems to be the argument that's being made here. And I, to one degree or another, I can go along with that. I definitely think, I remember there was we had neighbors and our kids played with the neighbor kids every day, all the time. They were all over each other. We were in each other's houses. There was a closeness, there was a proximity.
Yeah.
And then like the COVID thing happens. And I remember like the stepdad screaming at the kids, 6 feet apart, stay 6 feet apart. And I'm like, dude, like,
yeah,
there's no reason to do that. But like I said, people went crazy. And so as absurd as that scene is, and then she's like, she's like, where's your mask? He's like, I'm fucking covered in blood running from a murderer. I don't have a mask on right now. It's like, well, I'm not letting you in without a mask. Okay.
I might have one.
Yeah. She's like, I have a mask. It's sanitized. It's like, as silly as that is, it does go to how people were feeling during the whole quarantine and, like people's like overreactions to things. And I get it. Robert and I talked about this when we did our election coverage. Like people were desperately afraid of like dying of COVID. So I do understand some people, but like when there's a crisis, you can see lack of coping skills really come out in people,
Yes.
And so that I think my biggest like criticism of Sick is the cold open kind of deals with with COVID quarantine stuff. Like a guy like he's come out of the store, he's taken his mask off because you're not indoors anymore.
Yeah.
And if you'll remember, during the whole quarantine, if you were outside, you didn't necessarily have to wear a mask. So he has his mask off, but but someone was like texting him and like fucking with him in the store. So he's nervous and like looking around or whatever. He's not paying attention to where he's going, and he bumps a guy, and the guy's like, "Where's your mask?"
Yeah, and it, like I said, it shows like the extreme. I mean, the social commentary is there. I mean, it does show the extreme. That's the only.
But that's the problem. Like,
see there
after the cold open, and after I guess his name is Tyler. After Tyler gets butchered, there's nothing for a while. It's the setup to them going to quarantine at the lake house. There's a little bit of, do you have your masks? Did you get tested? Are you okay? Are you okay? And then it's just two idiot girls hanging out in a house for a while. This is the bulk of the movie. Until
the cuck boy shows up, and
right. We're a good 35 minutes in before they start getting attacked.
Yeah. And I mean, there's no suspense. There's no dread.
These are not interesting girls.
And another thing that I absolutely died laughing about is how she contacts 911. She just types 911 into an email.
Right.
And what's even funnier
Hang on. This girl, by the way, has John Wick superpowers.
Oh yeah.
She falls off the roof of the house onto her back and only breaks her leg.
Well, that is plausible. I mean, I've seen that happen because you have a lot of adrenaline going through your body and everything. It's about a 20-foot fall.
On her back?
Well, yeah. I mean, haven't you seen people jump off the WWE and take a back bump?
I don't think jumping off the Hell in the Cell.
Mick Foley got thrown off of it, took a back bump, and is still alive today.
Okay, he also like a table broke his fall, and it wasn't quite 20 feet.
Well, the ground broke hers.
Yes, and it should have broken her back in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that I understand that there should have been more injuries, but it wouldn't have killed her. I mean, I could
fine,
go with the
but I think my gripe is that she only gets a broken leg, and that's why I'm like, what is she, a Black Widow or John Wick? Where you can fall from orbit.
I understand it. Yeah, there should have been a lot more. At least play with the concussion aspect. Sell it a little bit better as wrestling fans will.
But you gotta type 911 into a fucking email.
Yeah, and then sends it. And then what is even funnier is he looks over at just a random router and goes, "Somebody's using the internet." Right.
Like those things just glow anyway.
Yeah, it's how do you know? It's like I look at my router all the time. As long as there's a device connected to it in my house, it shows it moves data. Regardless if you're actually on it, it's still transmitting data.
Right.
You don't know if somebody's actually using it. And the funniest thing about this is, I don't know if you caught it, is the mom and dad's names. Did you catch it?
No.
Pamela and Jason. Yeah, so you have Pamela and Jason trying to do an homage to Friday the 13th, and this movie was just so. Yeah. It could have been good. You could have had it.
The good is the playing with the COVID conventions. The bad is it's not paced well. It's not structured well. These are not well written characters. Like I think also, and I don't. People have been listening for the last year or so are going to be like, "Okay, here he goes." I'm not, but just hear me out. There's definitely a movement in some corners of Hollywood right now of playing with like the ethically non-monogamous ideas, and we're going to see it again in There's Something Wrong with the Children. Swinging, ethical non-monogamy, polyamory. This stuff is creeping into the culture a lot. It's showing up in different places. I mean, and not just like the people in the culture who are like trying to normalize it on social media through like TikTok and Instagram and whatnot. I mean, like the shit's showing up in movies and television shows here and there.
Yeah, and like you said, we'll explore a lot of that in Something Wrong with the Children.
But the girl, and I say it because the girl makes a point of they gave her a monologue where she's like, our deal was we're not exclusive. So it's okay for me to go to a party and kiss a bunch of guys. And there's a conversation to be had about that. Not now, not here, but there is definitely a movement in fiction, in written fiction, whether it shows up on a movie screen or not, where there are people saying, hey, societal monogamous norms are passé and we should evolve into, a more ethically non-monogamous society. Like, restricting people and their choices is probably not good for our general mental health. And boy, is that a loaded conversation. But it's definitely one Hollywood seems to be lurching towards.
Well, because you see it a lot in society in this current generation, because you see a lot of promiscuous flaunting, things like OnlyFans and everything.
Well, I was gonna say there's a book called like The Ethical Slut, which is quite popular in that community, by the way, and it justifies a lot of that behavior, and and there's a lot of like let's throw away conventions and norms, because those conventions and norms I think ultimately are unhealthy for a lot of people. I think fair-minded people will say no. Monogamy works for quite many people and should continue to work, and that's fair. It just doesn't work for everybody, and people who it doesn't work for shouldn't be shamed into stepping out of it, and that's fine. But I think the only point that I'm making is, boy, Hollywood seems to have an agenda. Promoting this sort of thing.
Well, I mean, there's they're trying to normalize it. Before a certain list gets exposed, but that's neither here nor there. But we'll move on to we'll dovetail our promiscuous couples and everything into Something Wrong with the Children.
Before we do, let me finish up with Sick, and then we can move on.
There's nothing to finish up with.
Okay,
we gave this movie more time than it deserves.
Give me another minute, please, Your Majesty. Here's the thing: if you have nothing else to do and you want to watch a slasher and you kind of want to laugh at the COVID stuff, Sick is fine. It's not a well-made movie. These are not interesting characters. The dialogue is not particularly witty, and the kills are not particularly brutal. But as a free streaming movie with your Peacock service, not a real service, like if you're done watching WrestleMania and you're like, what else Peacock got? An hour and a half of your time watching Sick is probably not the worst time well spent. But, should you go out of your way to watch it? No, it's not great. And with that said, did you want to do so? There's Something Wrong with the Children next? Yeah,
because that's probably the one that has the most meat on the bone. Because once we get to Children of the Corn, it's going to be fast and loose.
I was going to say it's the closest to a scary horror movie. So, all right. So There's Something Wrong with the Children is a 2023 American horror film directed by Roxanne Benjamin and written by T.J. Simfel and David White. Roxanne Benjamin has also done both VHS movies. She was the producer on those, as a matter of fact. She has a role as a zombie in the second one. She wrote, directed, and produced Body at Brighton Rock, and then this is her fourth feature. She's done a couple of short films, and she's done some television, such as Creep Show, Riverdale, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Nancy Drew, Pretty Little Liars, and One of Us is Lying. It stars Alicia Wainwright, Zach Yelford, Amanda Crew, and Carlos Santos. Jason Blum, this is a Blumhouse movie, served as a producer. It was released digitally January 17th, 2023 by Paramount Home Entertainment, and on March 17th by MGM+. The premise is Margaret and Ben take a weekend trip with longtime friends Ellie and Thomas and their two young children. Eventually, Ben begins to suspect something supernatural is occurring when the kids behave strangely after disappearing into the woods overnight. Yeah, they literally went down a fucking hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Hey, we're joined by Derpy Entertainment. Hey, Derpy, how's it going?
What's up, Derpy?
Glad you could make it. All right, so There's Something Wrong with the Children. So we were talking about like ethical non-monogamy and whatever. There's a great reveal in this because it's a long, slow crawl to get to where we're going with this movie.
Did you just say slong?
Slow,
We know
long crawl.
you said schlong. I like where your mind's
like,
at.
oh, I'm glad you do. I'll send you some pics later. I don't know. Listen, it's a slow, long crawl to get where we're going with this supernatural horror movie. But along the way, we're getting to know these characters, and the thing you pick up immediately with these couples is you have the one childless couple, and there's always this sort of thing between the childless and and the couple with the children. Derpy, we're talking about there's something wrong with the children. So like, and there's always just like, one of us, come on, join us, have children, ruin your life. It's great. And then there's the childless couple, like, oh, we're jet setting, we're busy, we're career people, we're busy business people who don't need no man. And so there's that like consternation and antagonism. But the other thing that happens is very early on in the movie, the couple with the children, you can see that there's some like animosity between them. Like there's some tension. And it is revealed that, and really, like, what married couple doesn't go through this? They were hanging out with another couple, and wouldn't you know it, wife swapping breaks out, swinging breaks out. And I have some personal experiences with this. I don't want to get into it, but I will.
Okay, moving on.
No. I'm not going to start. This is not story time. This is not the Metal Hammer of Doom jukebox. But I will say, when the wife starts talking about, so me and Kyle hooked up, and and it's awesome. I saw butterflies and stars and shit. And I turn over and I see my husband and Kyle's wife mildly canoodling, I think is the way she put it. Yeah. Like, gosh, I've been there. Apparently swinging doesn't always work for all four people is the point here. And I'm kind of making light of it and making fun of it, but it is the reason given for the antagonism between the two. And then later on, the husband starts giving a speech about like marriage and kids, and he said something to the effect of this I really identified with. He was like, kids are everything. Sometimes they're the only thing. Oh, buddy. come join our group. Come share. Yeah, I've been there. So, but that's all like set up to basically, they go on a hike. They find this fort. This fort has a hole in the ground. The kids look in the hole. The hole essentially like warps their mind. They go back to the hole. They jump in it. They come out. Now they're like possessed bug children. And the other side of this is I think his name is Ben. The character of Ben, the childless guy, he also has either like bipolar or some like minor schizophrenia. He's on lithium.
I thought he was manic depressive.
Well, manic depression is what is now called bipolar.
Okay.
So we'll go with that. So he's on lithium for bipolar disorder, which is a lot, by the way. Like they typically don't do lithium for bipolar now. They'll do lesser effect. They'll do lesser, heavier meds, but some do take it. And the movie's central tension is the kids are possessed and fucking with this guy, but he's also mentally ill. So is it that he's mentally ill or the kids are fucking with him? And there's all these beats that lead to one of the kids seemingly being killed by Ben, and everyone kind of turning on him, and Ben going, am I crazy or did this really happen? Well, it turns out it was all real, because then the kids start killing everybody. And it ends with Ben's wife, girlfriend, whatever the hell she is, being like the sole survivor. And so there's Ben on the road with the two kids, and she's speeding down the highway, and it cuts away right before she may or may not have hit him with her car. That's the whole movie.
We got to back up because Ben becomes, Jason Voorhees at some point, and his girlfriend or wife becomes, the Incredible Hulk. Because I've seen this, Ben is attacking her because essentially Ben has been infected and gone crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he goes back to the well one too many times. He goes to the well one too many times.
Yeah, he does.
And it fucks with him.
Right.
So now he's the elder Bugman.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes a machete and embeds it
In his
4
shoulder.
inches, 4 inches into his shoulder.
Yep.
That's not how that works. That is that is not how that works. That a machete you would have to be extremely powerful to embed a machete through that much muscle tissue and bone.
Mm-hmm.
I
think it's like more like even like not even a machete. I think it's like a chef's knife, isn't it?
No, it's a machete.
Oh, it's the machete that they were cutting through the woods with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it spills over and convenience, it's right beside her.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, this is just a plethora of what the fuck, because the premise is there. It has a really good base.
Mm-hmm.
The execution is very lacking because you do have the supernatural thing. You could toy with that and his mental health, and you could play with that, but you get to a tipping point where everything goes to hell, and it just all starts falling apart going into the third act.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is revealed. They start killing everybody, and it's like, okay, why? There's no reasoning.
Right. Well, my favorite kill is the one where they kill the sheriff's deputy, but only because everything the kids have done, they've been physically present. Like when you see them in shadow, that you can see the bug inside of them, the silhouette of the bug, which looks something like a praying mantis, or like like a cockroach or something, but like a combination of the two. But when they kill the sheriff's deputy, it's like a Nightmare on Elm Street. It's just wire work. She's just being thrown hither and thither. Like you don't see the kids at all. And I'm like, wait, when did that happen? When did the kids become able to do like telekinesis and shit? Or why are they invisible? Every time the kids do something, they're visible, and then suddenly they're not. And then in every other scene, they are. Like it was the dumbest thing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go throw this out there, and I'm sure I'll catch a lot of backlash. I thought it was 2 girls. The kids were 2 girls. No, I mean dead serious, because it, and I'm not making light of it. It's just how they, in the trailer, how they presented everything. It was 2 daughters.
Okay.
And it's just weird, and they do a really, and I the best thing out of this, I really think, is the kids acting. In that scene where they vanish and they come back, and it's just them and the Ben, and they're in there, and like they're just kind of playing off of each other,
right?
They're creepy kids.
Well, the boy does a lot of good physical acting. Anytime he talks, I'm not particularly impressed. But the girl is the highlight of this movie. Like she somehow or other, there's a lot of like condescending looks, which I think are great. Like she does a really good job with that. She does a really great job of looking creepy, looking menacing. And
the way
her presence adds to the. Like she's like I said, they're fucking with Ben for most of the movie, and her presence really adds to that. Like I said, if you're watching this movie, watch it for her acting. It's the best thing of this. It's the best thing in the movie.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is in that parlor scene, the way she just turns and she switches back and forth like a couple of times because they're consoling her, and she's like, crying and everything, but she's looking at Ben and with just this like really fuck you look,
right?
but she's able to persuade the parents and everybody that Ben has killed this kid,
right?
And you're just like, and the child, like I said, the child acting is great in this. The dialogue, not great at all.
I'm sorry. The mom who's the swinging mom. Getting her to the point where she finally starts talking about the swinging incident was painful. Because she does a lot. And here's the thing. I'm not saying she's a bad actress. I think she's a perfectly serviceable actress. I just hate that. Because like if you ever, and I know somebody who does this, who kind of like their ability to communicate is a little constipated. And so like you ask them a direct question and they're like evasive and cryptic. And they don't actually use words at times. It seems like it's a series of grunts. And you're like, I I need you to use words, pal. I need you to actually talk. And so, like, the conversation between the two women is like, hey, what's going on with you and your husband? And she kind of does one of these, you know, like,
yeah, it's like she turns into a velociraptor.
Fucking turns into chimpanzee, you know, and it's because she doesn't want to say, I fucked this guy in front of my husband, and turns out my husband didn't love it. And so it's like painful getting there. She's like all breathy about it. She's like, oh, and I need more alcohol. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, this is a horror movie for white women.
Like, oh yeah, I mean, the deal with and what's funny is, you talked about that scene.
Well, I say that because I think any like middle-aged, middle class, upper middle class white woman who watches that is like, no, that's how we all talk. We all talk in grunts and pointing at wine glasses. Like, all right, I get it. It's just annoying.
Well, I mean, it's really funny because they go through this progression really quick, because it's like, well, tell me about everything, and she's like, well, I don't want to talk about it. Well, do you? It's like, well, she's hee-hawing around, and then it's like, do you want wine? Yes, and the floodgates open.
Right.
It's like, the wine is the skeleton key to getting women to speak.
Wine is how you get women to talk. It's not through interrogation or, it's not through
actual conversation.
No, or I was gonna say waterboarding. No, the way to get women to talk, to spill the beans, to give up the secrets, is just a glass of wine. That'll do it.
Yeah,
a little bit of rosé all day, baby. I wish they had instead of focusing on that. Which, here's the thing, they made a huge deal out of that swinging incident, and all it does is explain why in the beginning of the movie they're not getting along.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do anything else for the movie. Like, Ben's mental illness is the whole key to this movie, and that isn't even alluded to until midway through.
No, the reason for the swinging is to set up why the kids spend the night with the childless couple. That could have been done any number of ways. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's how they and then the fight when the adults get into the fight.
Oh my God, that's
hilarious.
So great. that just them like everyone's like spilling the tea now. Like everyone's like revealing secrets. It's great, and it ends in a slap. I got to go back to the Ben thing. Instead of focusing so long and so much on the swinging incident, and so much and so long on whether or not Ellie and Ben should have kids or not, they should have been focusing on the reveal about Ben. Instead of doing it as a reveal, that should have been the baseline for this entire movie. Ben's out of work. Why is Ben out of work? Because Ben has manic episodes. Sometimes the meds don't work. How long has he had this condition? Like their reason for being in the woods, their reason, for like the couple that with the tension should have been Ellie and Ben, not the other two jabronis. It's like they wrote them as having that so that there was a reason for the kids not to be there. But honestly, the kids could have ran out in the middle of the night anywhere.
Anytime. Yeah, even if they were staying at the other cabin. Right.
Yeah. They could have been like, we put the kids to bed and then we went back outside to like drink wine and and smoke pot, and we went back inside and the kids are gone. We didn't need that whole first part of the act.
Right.
And so midway through the second act is where Ben's like, oi, with these kids already. I don't know what's going on. And by the way, lithium is not as needed. Like, you can't be taking lithium just like I'm having a bad day. Let me get some, it's not Xanax. Like, I need to take the edge off. Let me get a little Z's in there. Relax.
That's like saying cocaine as needed.
Yeah,
let me get a bump to to get through my day.
What a day this has been. My boss, what an asshole. Been riding me all day. Let me get a bump. A little bit of the cocaine bear. No, you have to take lithium as prescribed, and you have to take it daily. It's not an as needed drug. And the way they did it, they kind of set it up as like it is as needed. Like, he's like, I'm having a bad day. Let me get a little bit of my lithium to take the edge off. Boy, is that not how that works. And so that needed to have been set up well before that. Like, his mental illness as, is this happening or is he just mentally ill, needed to be the thread through the entire movie, not set up midway through the second act.
Yeah, I think a better vehicle to do that and I'm going to move this because it's in the trailer, is when you see him looking down and they're shaking the bottle and the one girl's giving a beer to her dad.
Right.
Why not have that, like, kind of frame that as he's seeing this stuff, but is it really happening?
I didn't even see the pills with the cup either. I saw the bugs in the Dorito bag. But
yeah,
when he's like, she's trying to drug you, and I'm like, she is? Because I didn't see her try to put pills in there.
Well, what it is it's implied because she opens the beer. Well, the pill bottle's empty, and when the little boy is shaking the pill bottle, it's empty. And then, but when he's like, he's trying to drug it, and then that's when the whole reveal that he's got mental disorder. I think that they could have done that as, the kids fucking with him,
right?
And we don't know, and it kind of goes back to the, I'm going to quote this movie. It kind of goes back to the first Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. Do we have a trusted narrative, narrator, and have that, and then like you could have did all that, have him seeing all this shit going on, and then the reveal being
the phrase you're looking for is reliable narrator.
Yeah. And then when we go back, just kind of do like a little flashback of these like cuts of these scenes, like how it actually happened and how it was viewed by him. And then go on, and then the kids kills everybody. and then the movie ends. And because you could see it, leave it open-ended like that. But the way they did this is you don't know what's going on. Like if Ben is really crazy, and like they're trying to make him a really mustache twirling guy, and he's not.
Right.
And they turn on him so quick.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of it is they think he's killed the son. So, that's going to raise tensions. When the whole thing with the beer in the Dorito bag, that a better movie does that better. But given what we have, that whole scene is meant to show Ben as unreliable, as suspicious. And so they're turning on him because from their perspective, he swatted a bag out of a kid's hand, a beer out of a girl's hand, and just started yelling at them for no good reason. Like no one else saw what was, the illusions. No one else saw the kids fucking with him. So, and then later on when the kid dies and there's no good explanation for it, and he's already been acting like a weirdo. Yeah, I get why the parents got the way they got. And then by that point though, the page has turned and we're into the part of the movie where the ruse is over, the veil has been lifted, and the kids are monsters tearing everybody apart. And then by the end, so that at that point it just becomes survival horror, which is the least interesting part of this movie. There's something, just to wrap up, there's something wrong with the children I think is worth a watch. If you have, you're looking for like a horror movie to watch, to rent, or if you have MGM Plus, it's worth checking out. It's not the best, it's not great, but it's a solid feature. I mean, like I said with Sick, if you're watching movies at home and you're looking for stuff to do, neither one of these is a particular waste of time. They're just not great. And we were having a conversation about let me say it right, because I'm getting criticized for this. The Mario Brothers movies. Apparently I say Mario and that's incorrect. Mario Brothers. It's not getting great reviews. We'll talk about it on Tuesday. It's not getting great reviews, but the conversation we were having at my dinner table last night was some movies don't survive scrutiny, but most people don't scrutinize movies. So Sick into Something Wrong with the Children, I think the average horror movie fan watches these and goes, I was entertained for an hour and a half. This is fine.
And they're good. They're both tight.
Yeah.
130 minutes.
These are look, if I have to
90 minutes.
At a gun to my head, if I had to say something purely good about both Sick and There's Something Wrong with the Children, these are efficient movies. They make good use of their runtime. I mean, Sick drags in places, but like for 90 minutes a piece, yeah, these are perfect in that sense.
Yeah. Now let's move on to
let me intro the movie, but then I got to have a conversation with you. Yeah,
Let's
this-
jump off the cliff.
we're gonna end with Long Road to Ruin ends off a cliff. Children of the Corn is a 2020 American supernatural slasher film written and directed by Kurt Wimmer. It stars Elena Campuris, Kate Moyer, Callan Mulvey, and Bruce Spence. It's the third adaptation of the short story Children of the Corn by Stephen King, which was written in 1977. It was released, it had an 18-day theatrical window in March 3rd of 2023 and was supposed to be released on Shudder March 21st, 2023, but was not. It was also released on Blu-ray and DVD May 9th, 2023. It is the first film based on King's story to be theatrically released since Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice. Let me stop there. Kurt Wimmer has written a bunch of movies and directed 2, this being one of them. The other one he directed was One Tough Bastard, but he's got writing credits for the 2012 iteration of Total Recall, the 2015 iteration of Point Break. He also wrote The Misfits in 2021. Some other things that he's done: The Recruit, he wrote the Thomas Crown Affair, he wrote Sphere. So that's what he's known for. And hey, should have let my wife know this. He attended the University of South Florida. Go Gators. Wait, that's the University of Florida. University of South Florida is here in Tampa. Anywho, let me ask you before we get into all of this: have you seen the original Children of the Corn?
Yes, it evoked a fear in me and cornfields to this day.
Oh yeah, so you can go to a corn maze without shit in your pants.
Well, I don't like dark corn mazes. Let's just say that.
Okay.
A corn maze I can handle,
Mm-hmm.
but there's been friends that have been like, "Let's go to this corn maze. It's a haunted house at night."
When the
I'm
lights
like,
are off,
"No."
Jason's butt cheeks are clenched.
Well, that's only when I come to visit you. But yeah, I mean, this invoked the original, the 1984, invoked a fear among horror movie aficionados that grew up in that time, because it really kicked off the creepy kid ideal. Because Isaac from the first one is fucking terrifying, because he is just this human has just this look that just invokes fear. And the fact that he has rallied these children to kill all adults,
like you do,
and they run this city based on a demonic presence of the one who walks among the rolls, or in this case, Groot from Wish. And in 1984, there is a scene that the ending scene where the one who walks attacks a sacrifice, and it's not, and it looks like Atari graphics. But I would take that over what we've seen at the end of this.
Let me quick jump in here with the plot synopsis. A psychopathic 12-year-old girl, aren't they all, in a small town in Nebraska, recruits all other children and goes on a bloody rampage, killing the corrupt adult and anyone else who opposes her. A bright high schooler who won't go along with the plan is the town's only hope of survival. Look, I'm not going to lie. I can't even front. I had this movie on, but my housemate, Chris, and I were talking the entire fucking time. I have so we watched, and I kind of started paying attention when Groot showed up and started dismembering people. But outside of that, I have no idea what happened in this movie. I couldn't tell you if it was good or bad.
Oh, it was bad. So
what makes it bad, Jason Teasley?
I'll do all the heavy lifting, and
yes,
I'll give you the runtime. So at the beginning of this movie, it starts off this, I'm going to say he's probably 16, 17-year-olds, just walks out of a cornfield, grabs a knife, and goes in and kills the adults. This little girl sees him. She's the only one that survives. They take over. The adults gas this school, killing a bunch of school kids. She's the only one. Yeah, this is how far-fetched. She's the only one that survives. And she has that obsession with the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland that nobody knows why. Yeah. So finally, then it you flash forward a little bit, and she's trying to kill this boy by making him walk off a plank of a tower, like a water tower. And and like they're like, and they want to set him on fire. And there's an old car out there that's one of the other backstory characters keeps his car out there for some reason. And they was like, well, the corn dust and the HGMO, the pesticides, the HOA, and everything in the air, the COVID,
the AOR, the ORA, the UHF, the VHS,
the spores from Last of Us was in the air. It'll cause an explosion. Everything will burn down, killing everyone.
Right.
So fast forward that a little bit, you get this town hall meeting that we come to the conclusion that this Midwestern town, they have miles and miles of farmland with corn. All the corn's dying. So they get this government proposal to pretty much kill all the corn out and be subsidized for it. The adults make the decision. That's what's best for the town. The kids say, well, we don't have a voice. We want to vote. Kind of like now. We think we need to know what's best for us since it's impacting our future. Kind of like now. But they don't make the best decisions because they're children.
Right.
And they just want to do things that they want to do. So fast forward, they jail a lot of people and gas them. Then they take another bunch of adults and put them in a hole, and the bad CGI of a tractor. It takes way too long to fill in this hole that, any typical person would, once they dump the dirt in, would be able to climb the dirt to get out, but that's neither here nor there. So you kind of see this little girl is kind of drunk with power, and she's a cult leader. And then you get this dialogue that is exposition dump of, well, if we sacrifice everyone, the corn will heal itself, the earth will heal itself, Gaia will appear, Captain Planet will help us all. And their power rings combine. One who walks among the rows comes out, takes this reporter that they're sacrificing, drags her into the corn, and then you see you kind of just go along for the ride. The older female protagonist escapes. They go out there, and there's a confrontation. There's gas. You light everything on fire. Everything burns down. Then you have a Chucky from the original Child's Play. The demonic little kid, the cult leader, comes back, all burnt to a crisp, and said, nothing dies in the corn, and we fade to black.
Yeah. Okay. So was this movie
all right,
garbage?
plugs.
This movie was hot garbage? No recommendations?
Oh, yeah. I would not recommend this. And what's funny is
this was your idea, by the way. You said before it was like, I want to do something. What prompted this whole podcast? I didn't want to correct you earlier, but what prompted this whole podcast was Children of the Corn.
Oh, was it?
Hey, you texted me. You're like we should do Children of the Corn. I'm like, well, if we're gonna do that, let me see what else has also been out the last quarter, and we'll just do 3 horror movies as a triple feature, so I can get some of these streaming movies on my roster. And you're like, that's fine. Now having watched Children of the Corn, do you fucking regret this?
Yeah, I did. I absolve you from Nerdland.
Oh my God, are you serious?
I absolve you from Nerdland.
I never have to hear that shit again.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Jesus, what the fuck did I do?
I may have hit one too many.
Yeah, you hit too many. I really thought it was something wrong with the children because I remember messaging you about that too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, it was definitely Children of the Corn that got this ball rolling.
Children of the Corn. This, and like I said, doing the research, I told you us off air. This was supposed to be kind of framed as a prequel to the original with modern, but yet it has modern technology.
Yeah,
that blows my mind.
Well, I'm gonna go. Let me say this last word, and then we'll go right into plugs. like I said, I wasn't really listening to the dialogue. I was just kind of watching, and I was watching the killings. And I was like, okay, more killings, more this. Occasionally, someone yells out corn. But when I started to laugh, and by this point, Chris and I had not really been talking anymore, but my mind was definitely elsewhere. But what keyed me back into the movie, and only because it looked so stupid, was Groot. When Groot came out of the cornfield and just started tearing women apart, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I remember Chris and I kind of having that same reaction of like, what is this movie? What happened here? Where did this come from? And why is Groot here killing people? And by that point, we were both just kind of like, yeah, let's just move on. Like, I'm gonna tell Jason tomorrow, like, you're gonna have to do the review by yourself because I have no idea what happened. Stupid. Right. With that said, Jason,
there's nothing to this movie. Avoid it. Go back, watch the original. The original is so much better, even with the Atari CGI. I recommend that 100 times over than this.
All right. Jason Teasley, show us where you pissed from.
Okay, I'm telling you, one day you're going to see that. See, somebody else wants to see it too.
Yeah, Kelty absolutely wants to see where you pissed from.
Well, you've got the picture. Anyway, you can find me over at Mosaic MC across all platforms. We're gearing up for our college football draft, NFL draft of college players. We did a mock draft that is already posted. Pretty sure Tyler's got it up. Definitely check out all the graphics over on Instagram. Go give us a like and follow. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and on wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All right. When are you coming back? What else?
I'm not back until we do, I think, season 4, which is in a while.
I'm double checking. Let's see. Because I don't remember if you're doing any other Daniel Hollywoods. I remember you and Alexis like a fucking wish list.
I'm back for Renfield.
Yes, you're back for Renfield, Evil Dead Rise, and then season 4. So yeah, you'll see Jason April 18th, April 25th, May 2nd, and hey, we'll be back for a long road to ruin. We did the Anaconda, now we're doing Lake Placid, and that'll be May 31st.
Yeah.
Yes. And we have a whole bunch of triple features coming up. We've got Shark Exorcist, Sharks of the Corn, and Ghost Shark for Shark Week. Sharks of the Corn.
We could. I'm pretty sure it's going to be better than this iteration of Children of the Corn.
Hang on, let me get there. Jason and I are going to be doing a triple feature of Freddy versus Jason, Lake Placid versus Anaconda, and Sharktopus versus Whale Wolf.
Hey.
When is this?
That is August 10th. And then we're going to do an on trial. We haven't done a civil court on trial in a while. We're going to compare, and I almost did it for Children of the Corn here, but in September, we're going to do the original versus the remake of White Men Can't Jump.
Oh, yeah. I'm on a few shows before then, though.
Yes, you're on a few shows. All right. So this weekend, so our canned hams for you. We've got the good boys over at Movies That Don't Suck. They're putting up their review of John Wick Chapter 4 and Shazam Fury of the Gods. This Saturday, no, everyone loves a bad guy, but we do have some alternative commentaries from previous years. We've got Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Brad Solomon. That was on DAZN, which rhymes with calzone. On Sunday, this is the period. We're in the Blog Talk Radio era where I went on the Jonas Exodus. And so this begins like a run of Metal Hammer of Dooms with Robert Cooper and special friends. This one is him and Sean Comer doing a Nightwish retrospective. On Monday, Jesse's got a source material about Shaka Khan. I guess. I don't know. It's something called Shaka Khan. Oh, yeah. It's something called Chakan. I don't know what that is. He does weird stuff now that I don't run his schedule. But in the evening time, Jesse and I are going to go from the corner to the deuce, and we're going to hang out in the Treme with the People Sachet. Season 2. And then on Tuesday, the Super Mario Brothers movies, not Mario, jerks. We'll do a Damn You Hollywood for that. And then that's all I got for now. I'm going to add some more stuff to the calendar, I'm sure. Plus, video games to the max, talk the Keki, MMA from Arcs, all of the stuff here on the W2M network. That's all I've got to say. I'm done talking now. For Jason Teasley, I'm Mark Radulich. This has been Triple Feature. Thanks for joining us. Be well, be safe, and behave.